Bullies mocked the disabled bride in a wheelchair, unaware the silent cowboy was watching. The morning sun poured through the tall windows of Emily's room, filling it with a warm, golden light. The soft hum of birds outside mixed with the quiet anticipation that hung in the air. Today was not just any day. It was the day Emily had dreamed about for years, even through the difficult times she had faced. Today, she would marry Luke, the man who had stood by her through every challenge, every laugh, and every tear. Emily sat in her wheelchair, adjusting the delicate lace of her wedding dress. The dress had been specially tailored to fit her needs, flowing elegantly around her and pooling gently on the floor. Even though she could not walk, the dress made her feel beautiful and powerful. She ran her fingers over the smooth fabric, a smile tugging at her lips. It had been a long journey to this day, full of struggles that many people would never understand. But in this moment, all the difficulties seemed to melt away. Her mother, Grace, hovered nearby, fussing over Emily's hair and makeup. Grace's eyes were bright with excitement, but also with a touch of nervousness. "You're going to be stunning, Emily," she said softly, brushing a stray lock of hair from her daughter's face. "Everyone will see how amazing you are." Emily nodded, taking a deep breath. "I hope so, Mom. I just want today to be perfect." Her voice was calm, but there was an edge of anxiety beneath it. Even though she had been dreaming about this wedding for years, the thought of facing all the people who might judge her still made her stomach twist. Luke walked quietly into the room, carrying a small box that contained the necklace he had chosen for her. He had been by her side through so many challenges, his love steady and unwavering. When he saw her in the dress, his eyes softened, and a smile spread across his face. "You look incredible," he said, setting the box down on the table. He reached out and gently held her hand. "I'm so proud of you, Emily. Today is all about us." Emily felt a rush of warmth at his words. She had never felt more seen, more loved than in this moment. Luke had never treated her differently because of her wheelchair. He had always seen her strength, her humor, and her heart. And today, standing in front of everyone, she wanted to show the world the same strength she had learned to carry every day. The house was filled with the soft bustle of preparations. Bridesmaids moved quietly around the room, adjusting ribbons and arranging flowers, their voices low but cheerful. Emily's father, Richard, peeked in briefly, nodding at his daughter with a mixture of pride and emotion. Even though he struggled to put his feelings into words, his eyes said everything: love, pride, and a little bit of nervousness. Outside, the garden was alive with color. Roses, tulips, and daisies swayed gently in the morning breeze, their fragrance mingling with the crisp air. The ceremony would take place under a large oak tree, its branches stretching out like protective arms over the space where Emily and Luke would exchange their vows. Lanterns hung from the tree, ready to glow softly as the day turned to evening. Every detail had been carefully planned to create a perfect day, a day that celebrated love, resilience, and hope. Emily's thoughts drifted to the past, to the accident that had changed her life 2 years ago. She had been full of energy and independence, never imagining that a single moment could alter everything. At first, the transition had been almost unbearable. There were days when she had felt angry, frustrated, and alone. But slowly she had learned to adapt, to find joy in small victories, and to lean on the people who truly cared for her. Luke had been her anchor through it all, offering support without pity, encouragement without pressure. A gentle knock at the door pulled Emily from her thoughts. It was her best friend, Sophie, holding a small bouquet of white lilies. "Hey, beautiful," Sophie said softly, kneeling beside her friend. "You're going to be amazing today. Everyone's going to see how strong and beautiful you are." Emily smiled, feeling the familiar warmth of friendship. "Thank you, Sophie. I don't know what I'd do without you." The hours passed in a blur of laughter, gentle chaos, and quiet moments of reflection. Emily and Luke shared small, tender glances throughout, their hands brushing, fingers intertwined. Every smile, every word of encouragement felt like a promise that no matter what challenges came their way, they would face them together. As the time for the ceremony drew near, the first guests began to arrive. Emily's heart skipped as she saw familiar faces, some of whom she had not seen in years. There were smiles and warm greetings, but Emily also felt a flicker of anxiety. She knew that not everyone would be kind. Some had always whispered behind her back, casting judgment without understanding her life or her struggles. Among the guests, a few people stood out. They were distant relatives and former classmates who had never been particularly kind to Emily. They arrived with smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes, and Emily sensed the faint tension they brought with them. She tightened her grip on her wheelchair, reminding herself that today was about love, not judgment. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of the garden, a guest named Jake quietly observed the scene. He was a tall man, wearing a cowboy hat and a calm expression, blending into the background. Jake had been invited by a mutual friend and had noticed Emily immediately. There was something about her presence that commanded respect, something quiet but undeniable. He noticed the subtle glances and snickers from certain guests, the way some people couldn't hide their judgment. Though he didn't know Emily personally, he felt a protective instinct stir within him. Back inside, Emily took a few deep breaths, feeling the mix of excitement and nerves swirl together. She remembered the countless times she had imagined this day, dressed in white, surrounded by love, promising her life to Luke. She refused to let anyone's cruelty take away from that dream. The ceremony began with soft music drifting through the garden. Emily's wheelchair was guided along a special path, lined with petals and flowers, leading her to the oak tree where Luke waited. Guests rose as she approached, some clapping, some wiping tears from their eyes. Emily felt a surge of emotion. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the culmination of years of struggle, courage, and love. Luke rose as she arrived, his eyes locking with hers. There was no hesitation, no doubt, only love, unwavering and strong. As Emily reached the tree, she felt the weight of the moment, the significance of everyone watching. But more than that, she felt the support of everyone who had truly loved her, from her family to her closest friends, and even the quiet presence of Jake, who had observed the scene from the back with respect and admiration. The officiant began to speak, his voice gentle and calm, guiding Emily and Luke through the vows they had written. Emily's voice shook at first as she spoke, but Luke's steady gaze gave her strength. Every word, every promise, was a testament to the journey they had shared and the love that had grown despite the obstacles. Through the ceremony, Emily remained composed, even as she noticed subtle reactions from some guests. There were whispers and sideways glances from the bullies, but Emily focused only on the faces that mattered, the people who celebrated her, supported her, and loved her unconditionally. She reminded herself that this day was hers, Luke's, and theirs alone. As the ceremony drew to a close, Emily felt a sense of accomplishment and joy that transcended everything else. She had faced the world with courage, had embraced her own beauty and strength, and had found a partner who loved her without condition. And in that moment, surrounded by flowers, sunlight, and the people who truly cared, she knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter defined by love, resilience, and unwavering hope. The morning sunlight had grown warmer, casting a gentle glow over the garden where Emily's wedding was to take place. The guests had started to arrive, bringing laughter, greetings, and the quiet hum of excitement. The air was fragrant with flowers, and soft music drifted from hidden speakers, blending with the rustle of leaves. Emily, still in her wheelchair, had taken her place near the oak tree, ready to begin the ceremony. Her dress shimmered softly in the sun, and her veil floated lightly in the breeze. While most of the guests carried warmth and joy in their eyes, Emily noticed that not everyone shared the same spirit. Among the arriving attendees, a small group of people, Distant relatives and some former classmates stood out. Their smiles seemed forced, their eyes carrying judgment rather than celebration. Emily had encountered such behavior before, though she had hoped it would not reach her wedding day. As they approached, subtle whispers reached her ears. Words like wheelchair and she can't even walk floated just loud enough to sting. Emily's lips pressed together, forcing herself to stay calm. She could feel the familiar knot of anxiety forming in her stomach, but she refused to let it show. Today was about love, not cruelty. Luke noticed her tense shoulders immediately. He had been quietly adjusting his tie when he saw Emily stiffen, and without saying a word, he wheeled closer. "Ignore them," he whispered softly, brushing his hand over hers. "They don't matter." His voice was steady, grounding her. Emily felt a spark of reassurance. Luke had always been her anchor, her constant in a world that sometimes seemed too harsh. From the back of the gathering, Jake, the silent cowboy, watched carefully. He had noticed the group as soon as they arrived. There was something in the way they carried themselves, smugness, arrogance, a quiet sense of superiority. He had been observing them from the beginning, taking mental notes of their behavior. While most guests chatted happily with friends and family, these bullies lingered near the edges, whispering and laughing in a way that was meant to be hidden but was not entirely successful. Emily's friends tried to distract her with small conversations and light jokes, but she could feel the sting of the whispers. Her mind wandered briefly to the cruel comments she had endured throughout her life since the accident. People had often looked at her wheelchair and assumed weakness, pity, or limitation. But today, she reminded herself, she was not just a woman in a wheelchair. She was a bride, full of love, courage, and dignity. She could not let anyone take that away. The bullies approached cautiously, pretending to greet Emily, but their smiles were sharp, their words coated with sarcasm. One of them, a former classmate named Rachel, leaned slightly closer, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. "Wow, Emily, you look nice," she said slowly, the emphasis on nice, clearly meant to belittle rather than compliment. The way she stared at Emily's wheelchair made the insult even more obvious. Emily forced a polite smile, her fingers gripping the arms of her wheelchair. She could feel her heart rate increase, but she held her head high. "Thank you, Rachel," she replied evenly. Her voice was calm, but inside, a mixture of anger and disappointment churned. She had learned over the years that responding with anger often gave bullies the satisfaction they craved. Today, she would remain composed. Luke's jaw tightened as he noticed the exchange, but he stayed beside Emily quietly, not wanting to draw attention or escalate the situation before the ceremony began. He trusted Emily's strength, but he also carried a protective instinct that flared whenever someone tried to harm her, even with words. The bullies did not stop at Rachel. A man named Brandon, a distant cousin, made a comment about the decorations, implying that Emily could never have organized such a beautiful event herself. "I guess she had plenty of help," he said with a sly grin, glancing at the wedding planners nearby. Several guests laughed politely, unsure whether to take the comment seriously. Emily's cheeks flushed, but she reminded herself to stay strong. Jake could no longer ignore their behavior. From his quiet seat at the back, he observed their every move, the sneers, the sideways glances, the soft laughs meant to humiliate. He had a quiet but burning sense of justice rising inside him. He did not know Emily personally, yet he felt compelled to protect her dignity. For now, he continued to watch, waiting for the right moment to act without causing a scene. Emily's thoughts drifted briefly to how far she had come since the accident. She remembered the early days, when even leaving the house felt impossible. She had fought for independence, fought for her confidence, fought to be seen as more than her disability. Today, in her wedding dress, surrounded by love, she felt the culmination of all that struggle. She refused to let anyone diminish her joy. The ceremony began, and the soft music filled the garden. Emily's entrance was guided by her father, who helped her navigate the petals scattered along the path. Guests rose as she moved forward, their faces a mixture of awe, admiration, and in a few cases, thinly veiled judgment. Emily's eyes scanned the crowd briefly, focusing on those who smiled warmly at her. She drew strength from them, from the faces of friends and family who had never doubted her worth. As she approached the oak tree, Luke stood waiting. His hands were folded neatly in front of him, his gaze steady and loving. Emily felt her heart swell with emotion. No matter the whispers, no matter the judgment, she had found her person, the one who saw her entirely, who loved her without reservation. The bullies lingered, making subtle attempts to disrupt the moment. Rachel whispered something to Brandon, and they both snickered quietly. Emily caught a fragment. "Do you think she can even stand?" The words stung, but she refused to respond. Her dignity and composure were stronger than their cruelty. Jake's eyes narrowed slightly. He noticed the whispers and the hidden cameras some of them were pulling out to take disrespectful photos. His fingers curled into fists, but he stayed in the background. He was a quiet observer, but he was preparing himself to act if necessary. There was a calm intensity in his demeanor, a silent promise that he would not allow Emily to be humiliated without consequence. The ceremony continued, and Emily tried to focus on Luke and their vows. Each word, each promise they exchanged, was a shield against the negativity around her. She reminded herself that this day was not about judgment or mockery. It was about love, commitment, and celebration. The soft breeze carried the scent of flowers, mingling with the sound of birds, creating a moment of serenity amidst the tension. Guests whispered among themselves, some expressing admiration for Emily's strength and grace. Her bravery was apparent to everyone, from the bridesmaids who had helped her prepare to the distant friends who had come to support her. Emily felt a surge of pride. She had not only survived the challenges of the past years, but had also grown stronger because of them. Today, she was not defined by her wheelchair. She was defined by her courage, her love, and her heart. The bullies, sensing that their attempts at ridicule were failing, exchanged frustrated glances. They muttered to each other under their breath, but Emily did not hear. She focused instead on Luke's face, the tender look in his eyes, and the unspoken promise that they were in this together. Jake continued to watch from the back, taking note of each small act of cruelty. He could see the subtle relief on Emily's face when her friend stepped closer to shield her from the worst of the whispers. He could see Luke's quiet support, standing like a protective shield beside her. And he could sense the quiet strength radiating from Emily herself, a strength that demanded respect. As the ceremony approached its most intimate moments, the bullies tried one final act of disrespect. One of them, Brandon, muttered loudly enough for a few nearby guests to hear, "I wonder how she's even going to sign the guest book." The words were meant to be cruel, to draw attention to Emily's disability. Emily paused, feeling a flash of irritation, but then she took a deep breath and smiled. Luke's hand squeezed hers reassuringly. She realized that their words only had power if she gave it to them. She would not give it. She would continue her day with grace and joy, surrounded by people who loved her, and nothing would take that away. The ceremony continued, and the bullies slowly began to realize that their attempts at mockery were not succeeding. Their whispers and snickers had no effect on Emily, Luke, or the supportive guests around them. Emily's dignity, confidence, and strength shone brighter than any judgment they could cast. From the back of the garden, Jake felt a quiet satisfaction. The bullies had begun to lose control, and Emily's courage had created a natural boundary they could not cross. Yet he remained vigilant, knowing that the day was not over, and that sometimes courage alone was not enough to stop cruelty. He remained ready, watching silently, prepared to act if necessary. By the time the ceremony reached the exchange of vows, the tension in the air had shifted. The Bullies' presence had lost some of its power, and Emily's bravery and grace had inspired others around her. The garden was filled with warmth, love, and a quiet sense of triumph. Emily's heart swelled as she looked at Luke, realizing that together they could face anything, even the judgment of those who failed to see true value. The ceremony had reached a quiet, tender moment. Emily and Luke stood beneath the oak tree, surrounded by the soft colors of flowers and the gentle hum of nature. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting playful shadows across the wedding aisle. Emily's heart was full of love and nervous excitement, a mix of emotions she had never felt so strongly before. She focused on Luke's face, his calm, loving gaze giving her the courage she needed to speak her vows. The officiant began to speak, guiding them through the promises they had written for each other. Emily's voice trembled slightly at first as she spoke her words. She promised to love Luke through joy and hardship, to support him through life's challenges, and to stand by him no matter what. Each word felt like a declaration not just of love, but of strength. She had survived pain, judgment, and the struggle of adjusting to life in a wheelchair. Today, her words carried all that history and resilience with them. Luke's voice was steady and strong as he spoke his vows. He promised to cherish Emily, to honor her courage, and to love her completely for the rest of their lives. Every glance, every word was a reassurance to her that she was valued, respected, and adored. It was a moment of pure connection, a reminder that no outside opinions could touch the bond they shared. Yet, as the couple exchanged their vows, the Bullies could not restrain themselves any longer. One of the women, Rachel, leaned over to Brandon and whispered loudly enough for a few nearby guests to hear, "Do you think she even knows what she's doing?" She smirked, clearly trying to provoke a reaction. Brandon chuckled quietly, adding, "I doubt she can even handle the simplest things without help." Emily's smile faltered for a brief moment. Her hands tightened around the sides of her wheelchair. Anger, hurt, and disbelief swirled inside her. For a moment she considered responding, letting the words of these people pierce the joy of her day. But then she looked at Luke, and his eyes met hers with unwavering calm. She felt strength returning. Their love, the months of planning, and the support of her friends and family were far more important than the cruelty of strangers. Jake, sitting silently in the back, had noticed the exchange immediately. His jaw clenched as he watched the Bullies whisper and laugh, their behavior blatant yet cowardly. He had already seen the subtle disrespect earlier, but now it had become open and audacious. He felt a protective urge rising inside him. He had no personal connection to Emily, yet seeing anyone demean another human being in such a manner ignited a fierce sense of justice within him. For now, he remained quiet, waiting for the perfect moment to intervene without escalating the situation. The guests around the couple were beginning to notice the Bullies' behavior as well. Some looked uncomfortable, unsure whether to speak up or ignore it. Others quietly shifted closer to Emily, offering silent support with reassuring glances or gentle smiles. The atmosphere, once filled with warmth and celebration, now carried an undercurrent of tension. Despite the interruptions, Emily refused to let herself falter. She drew a deep breath and continued with her vows, her voice steady and resolute. "I promise to face life with you, Luke, no matter the obstacles. I promise to always love, to forgive, and to grow together." The words felt like armor, shielding her from the negativity that tried to creep into her moment. Luke, noticing her determination, squeezed her hand gently. "We are stronger together," he whispered softly, just for her to hear. Emily smiled, feeling a rush of courage wash over her. She realized that these people, these Bullies, had no real power over her. Their cruelty could not touch the bond she shared with Luke or the dignity she carried within herself. The officiant smiled warmly, sensing the mixture of emotions in the crowd. He guided them through the final portion of the vows, encouraging them to speak from the heart. Emily took a deep breath and spoke words that reflected not only her love for Luke, but also her personal journey. I have faced challenges, I have felt doubt, but standing here with you, I know that love is stronger than fear, stronger than judgment, and stronger than anything else in this world. As her words settled in the air, a hush fell over the garden. Even the bullies seemed momentarily silenced, their expressions flickering between surprise and discomfort. Emily's voice, clear and confident, carried more weight than their whispers ever could. For the first time, they seemed to realize that her strength was not something they could diminish with words or judgment. But the bullies were not done yet. Rachel, frustrated by the moment of silence, decided to push further. She laughed in a way that was meant to be mocking and said aloud, "I don't even know why she bothered with this wedding. She can't even." Before she could finish, Jake finally rose from his seat. He moved quietly but deliberately toward the group, his presence commanding attention without a single raised voice. The cowboy hat cast a shadow over his face, making his expression unreadable but serious. When he stopped in front of the bullies, there was a sudden stillness. The laughter ceased, the whispers faded, and all eyes turned toward him. Jake spoke calmly, yet with unmistakable authority. "This is not the time or place for disrespect. What you're doing is cruel and it's not welcome here." His voice was quiet but firm, and the way he stood, tall and steady, left no room for argument. Emily has faced more challenges than most people could imagine, and yet here she is, standing with love and dignity. "You should be ashamed of trying to mock her on this day." The bullies froze, caught off guard. Brandon opened his mouth to respond, but the words died on his lips. Rachel's face turned red and she looked away, suddenly aware of the attention now on her. Several guests whispered to each other, impressed by Jake's intervention, while others nodded subtly in approval. The atmosphere shifted immediately. Emily, watching from beneath the oak tree, felt a surge of relief and gratitude. She had been trying to maintain her composure, but seeing someone quietly but firmly confront the bullies gave her a deep sense of justice and protection. Luke glanced at her, a proud smile on his face. "See," he whispered. "You're surrounded by people who care, not people who tear you down." The bullies, realizing that their attempts at ridicule had failed, retreated slightly. They muttered under their breath, their arrogance replaced with embarrassment. The soft murmur of the wedding guests returned, and the air grew warmer, lighter, and more joyful. Emily's courage, combined with Jake's quiet intervention, had turned the tide. As the ceremony continued, Emily's voice grew stronger with each word she spoke. She and Luke exchanged rings, each gesture full of meaning and significance. The guests watched in admiration, inspired not only by the love between the couple but also by Emily's resilience. Her journey, her strength, and her grace in the face of cruelty had made the moment even more powerful. Even the bullies, now quiet and withdrawn, could not ignore the display of love and dignity unfolding before them. Their whispers had been silenced, and they had no choice but to witness the triumph of character over cruelty. Emily felt a profound sense of satisfaction, not from revenge, but from knowing that love, courage, and respect had prevailed. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the garden erupted in applause and cheers. Emily and Luke shared a long, tender embrace, their smiles wide and genuine. Tears shimmered in Emily's eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming emotions of joy, relief, and victory. The bullies lingered at the edges, no longer able to affect the celebration, while Jake returned to his seat quietly, satisfied that he had done what was right. Emily's friends and family surrounded her, offering hugs, congratulations, and words of admiration. She felt a deep sense of belonging, knowing that the people who truly mattered had witnessed not only her wedding but also her strength. The bullies, no longer the center of attention, faded into the background, their attempts to humiliate Emily rendered powerless by her courage and the support surrounding her. As the couple moved to take photos with guests, Emily's spirit soared. She had faced judgment, cruelty, and whispers, yet she had remained composed, strong, and radiant. She had shown not only the world but herself that she was capable of extraordinary grace and dignity, regardless of the challenges she faced. Jake observed quietly from the back, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips. He had acted when it was needed, but he knew the real victory belonged to Emily and Luke. Their love, resilience, and unwavering courage had turned a potentially painful moment into a triumph. In his eyes, the silent cowboy had only witnessed a story of strength and justice, one that would stay with him long after the day ended. The ceremony ended on a note of triumph and joy. Emily and Luke's love shone brighter than any judgment, their commitment unshaken by negativity. And for the first time that day, the garden seemed filled entirely with hope, love, and celebration. The bullies had been exposed, their actions powerless, and Emily had proven to everyone, most importantly to herself, that true strength comes not from avoiding pain but from rising above it. After the ceremony ended, the garden slowly shifted from the quiet tension of earlier to a light, cheerful energy. The warm sunlight illuminated the flowers and lanterns, casting a soft glow across the gathering. Guests began to mingle, laugh, and take photos, the joyous atmosphere returning after the brief moment of unease caused by the bullies. Emily felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had faced the cruelty of others and had come through with grace and dignity. Luke gently guided Emily's wheelchair toward the area prepared for photographs. He held her hand, their fingers intertwined, and smiled at her warmly. "You were amazing," he whispered. Emily's cheeks flushed with happiness. Despite the hurtful remarks earlier, she now felt a sense of triumph and pride. Every step she had taken to reach this day had led to this very moment, and nothing could diminish it. Guests surrounded them, smiling and congratulating the couple. Friends and family praised Emily for her strength, her composure, and the beauty of the wedding. Many remarked on how radiant she looked, not just in her dress, but in the way she carried herself. She smiled, accepting the compliments with genuine gratitude, feeling her confidence grow stronger with each kind word. Meanwhile, the bullies lingered at the edges of the garden, unsure of what to do next. Their whispers and snickers had been silenced during the ceremony, and they now felt the quiet sting of embarrassment. No one paid them attention. The guests were drawn to the happy couple, to the celebration of love, and to the inspiring strength Emily had displayed. Rachel and Brandon exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that their attempts at mockery had failed completely. Jake remained nearby, observing silently as he always did. His presence had been a silent force during the ceremony, and now he watched the aftermath unfold. The bullies, though still in the garden, no longer carried any influence over the atmosphere. They tried to whisper among themselves, but it was clear that the celebration had moved beyond them. Jake's calm, authoritative presence had reminded them that cruelty would not be tolerated, and Emily's bravery had shown everyone that her strength could not be undermined. Emily's parents, Grace and Richard, approached her with tears in their eyes. "You were perfect," Grace said softly, squeezing her daughter's hands. "I am so proud of you. You faced everything today with so much courage and grace." Richard nodded, his voice choked with emotion. "You have always been strong, Emily." Today, everyone saw it. Emily smiled through her own tears, feeling the warmth of their love wrap around her like a protective blanket. Luke leaned close, whispering words of love and encouragement. "You did more than I could have imagined," he said. "You turned a moment that could have hurt you into a moment of triumph. I'm so proud to call you my wife." Emily's heart swelled. His words reminded her that love was stronger than any negativity and that together, they could face anything life threw their way. The photographer guided them through a series of photos, capturing smiles, laughter, and tender glances. Emily felt light and joyful, her earlier anxiety fading with each click of the camera. Friends took turns posing with the couple, sharing hugs and words of admiration. Each photo was a celebration not only of the wedding, but of the courage and strength that had brought them to this day. Even the bullies were not completely ignored, though not in a way they would have liked. A few guests who had witnessed their earlier behavior exchanged subtle nods and looks that conveyed disappointment and disapproval. The bullies shifted uncomfortably, realizing that the true focus of the day was not them, but Emily and Luke, and the happiness radiating from the couple was far more powerful than any cruel remark. The reception area had been set up nearby, with tables draped in soft linens and decorated with flowers and candles. The scent of fresh food and baked desserts filled the air, mingling with laughter and the quiet strumming of a live guitarist. Emily and Luke were guided to their seats at the head table, the centerpiece of the celebration. Guests followed, eager to continue the festivities and to honor the couple's love. During the speeches, friends and family shared heartfelt stories and anecdotes. Each speech highlighted Emily's courage, resilience, and the love she and Luke shared. Tears and laughter flowed freely among the guests. Emily felt a profound sense of gratitude, realizing how much support surrounded her. Her heart was full, and she knew that these moments would remain etched in her memory forever. The bullies tried to make themselves part of the conversation, offering forced smiles and attempting to join the laughter, but their efforts were in vain. No one paid attention to them, and their presence became increasingly irrelevant. Emily noticed the subtle shift in power. Their negativity held no sway over the joy and celebration unfolding around her. Jake, who had remained near the back, observed the scene quietly. He could see Emily's happiness radiating, the way she laughed freely, and the way Luke looked at her with unwavering love. There was no need for further confrontation. The bullies' influence had been nullified. Emily's strength, dignity, and the support of everyone around her had ensured that their cruelty had no place in the celebration. As the meal progressed, Emily and Luke took turns visiting tables, speaking to each guest and sharing moments of joy. Each conversation reminded Emily of the love and kindness in her life. She felt grateful for everyone who had supported her through the years, the friends who had stood by her side, the family who had never doubted her worth, and Luke, whose love had been a constant source of strength. The music shifted, signaling the start of the first dance. Emily and Luke moved to the center of the dance floor, the soft glow of lanterns surrounding them. The guests watched with admiration as the couple swayed together, lost in their own world of love and happiness. Emily felt the music fill her with joy, her heart light despite the earlier tension of the day. Luke held her gently, guiding her movements with care, ensuring that she felt comfortable and graceful. The bullies watched from a distance, unable to interfere. They were silent now, realizing that the day had moved beyond their attempts to demean Emily. Their whispers and snickers had been replaced by the laughter and celebration of friends and family. The contrast between cruelty and joy had never been more evident. After the dance, Emily returned to her wheelchair and continued to enjoy the reception. Games, toasts, and laughter filled the space. Children ran through the garden, chasing bubbles and playing tag, their innocent joy adding to the warmth of the celebration. Friends raised glasses to toast the couple, praising their love and resilience. Emily felt an overwhelming sense of happiness, knowing that she was surrounded by people who truly cared for her. As the evening progressed, the bullies quietly slipped away, their presence no longer able to affect the joyous atmosphere. Emily watched them leave, feeling neither anger nor hatred. Instead, she felt a quiet sense of victory. Their attempts to ruin her day had failed, and their absence only highlighted the strength and love that had carried her through. Luke leaned close, resting his forehead against hers. "See," he whispered, "nothing and no one can take this from us. Today is ours and it will always be ours." Emily smiled, feeling the truth of his words. Every moment of preparation, every challenge faced along the way had led to this perfect day. Love had triumphed, courage had shone, and kindness had prevailed. Jake, observing quietly, felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He had witnessed not only the cruelty of the bullies, but also the remarkable strength of Emily and the love between her and Luke. He had acted when needed, but the real triumph belonged to Emily, who had faced judgment with dignity, and to Luke, whose unwavering support had been a source of strength. As night fell, lanterns glowed softly, and the garden was bathed in a warm, gentle light. Guests continued to celebrate, sharing stories, dancing, and laughing. Emily felt a sense of peace, knowing that despite the challenges of the day, she had remained true to herself and had celebrated her love with grace and courage. The bullies' absence was a silent reminder that negativity had no place in the happiness of those who are strong and loved. Emily felt a profound sense of gratitude for everyone who had supported her, the friends who had stood by her side, the family who had never doubted her worth, and Luke, whose love had been unwavering. As the reception wound down, Emily and Luke shared a quiet moment together away from the crowd. The garden was calm and the soft glow of lanterns reflected in their eyes. "We did it," Emily whispered, her voice filled with emotion. Luke smiled, holding her close. "Yes, we did. And this is only the beginning." Emily looked around at the garden, now peaceful and full of joy. She realized that the day had been more than just a wedding. It had been a testament to courage, love, and resilience. She had faced judgment, cruelty, and whispers, yet she had emerged stronger, surrounded by people who loved and respected her. The night ended with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt goodbyes. Guests left with memories of a beautiful day, one that had been marked not by cruelty, but by the triumph of love, courage, and dignity. Emily and Luke remained at the center of it all, united not only by marriage, but by the strength they had shown in facing life's challenges together. As the night deepened, the soft glow of lanterns and fairy lights created a magical atmosphere in the garden. The warm hum of laughter, music, and conversation filled the air. Emily sat in her wheelchair at the edge of the dance floor, Luke beside her, his hand resting gently over hers. The day had been everything she had dreamed of, beautiful, emotional, and full of love. But it had also been a day that tested her courage in ways she had not anticipated. Looking around, Emily felt a profound sense of gratitude. The guests were still celebrating, sharing stories of the day, praising the couple, and laughing over memories that would last a lifetime. The bullies had quietly slipped away earlier, unable to compete with the overwhelming positivity that now filled the garden. Their absence was almost symbolic, a reminder that negativity cannot overpower love, courage, and dignity. Luke leaned closer, brushing a strand of hair from Emily's face. "You were incredible today," he whispered, "not just in the ceremony but in the way you handled everything. I've never been more proud of you." Emily smiled, feeling the warmth of his words settle deep within her heart. She had faced judgment, cruelty, and whispers, yet she had remained strong, graceful, and full of love. The feeling of victory was sweet, not because of anyone else, but because she had stayed true to herself. The night continued with music and dancing. Friends gathered around the couple, taking turns to join them on the dance floor. Even though Emily could not dance in the traditional sense, Luke guided her wheelchair with gentle, rhythmic movements, making her feel included and part of every moment. Laughter and joy bubbled up around them, and Emily felt light, free, and completely immersed in the love that surrounded her. Her mind wandered briefly to the journey that had brought her here. She remembered the accident that had changed her life 2 years earlier, the months of pain, frustration, and adjustment that followed, and the countless moments of doubt that had once seemed insurmountable. But she also remembered the people who had stood by her, the family that never abandoned her, the friends who never judged her, and Luke, whose unwavering love had been her anchor. Every challenge had shaped her, prepared her and made her stronger. Today was the culmination of all that growth, a day that reflected not just a wedding, but triumph over adversity. As Emily watched the celebration unfold, she noticed Jake quietly observing from the back of the garden. He had been a silent presence all day, intervening when the Bullies tried to disrupt the ceremony and ensuring that Emily's dignity remained intact. She felt a wave of gratitude toward him. Though she did not know him personally, his actions had been a quiet reminder that there are people in the world who stand for justice, even without recognition. She gave him a small nod, and he returned it with a respectful smile, before quietly stepping back into the shadows of the lantern-lit garden. Emily and Luke took a moment to step aside from the crowd. They wheeled slowly along a path lined with petals, hand in hand, soaking in the beauty of the night and the quiet satisfaction of a day well lived. "I can't believe this day is over," Emily said softly, her voice carrying a mix of happiness and wistfulness. Luke smiled and squeezed her hand. "It's just the beginning," he replied. "The real journey starts now together." They found a quiet bench beneath the oak tree where the night air was cooler and the stars twinkled brightly above them. Emily rested her hands on her lap, feeling a deep sense of peace. She thought about the bullies who had tried to diminish her joy, and she realized that their words no longer held any power. They had attempted to ruin a day that was meant for love and celebration, but they had failed completely. Their negativity had been washed away by laughter, support, and the undeniable bond between her and Luke. The garden around them was alive with joy. Guests continued to dance, share stories, and celebrate late into the night. Emily felt a warmth in her heart that she knew would stay with her forever. Every smile, every word of encouragement, and every act of kindness she had witnessed today was a reminder that love always outweighs cruelty. She had faced judgment head-on, and she had emerged not only unscathed but stronger than ever. Luke leaned close, his forehead resting against hers. "You've inspired everyone today," he said softly, "not just with your courage but with the way you love. You've shown everyone that strength isn't about what you can do physically, it's about your heart and your character." Emily felt tears prick her eyes, a mixture of emotion and gratitude swelling within her. She had worked so hard to accept herself, to embrace her life fully, and now she realized that she had not only done that, but she had also inspired those around her. The night continued with more celebrations. Friends and family shared quiet conversations, laughter, and heartfelt toasts. Every interaction seemed to reinforce the lesson of the day, that love, resilience, and kindness are more powerful than cruelty and judgment. Emily felt a deep sense of connection to everyone who had been part of her journey. She knew that this day, this celebration of love and courage, would remain a cherished memory for the rest of her life. At one point, Emily's mother, Grace, joined her and Luke on the bench. She placed a gentle hand on Emily's shoulder and smiled. "You've grown so much," she said. "You've faced everything with such grace today, and I couldn't be prouder. You've shown everyone what real strength looks like." Emily hugged her mother tightly, feeling the love and pride radiating from her. "Thank you, Mom," she whispered. "I couldn't have done this without you and Dad and without Luke. I feel so lucky." Richard, Emily's father, joined them with a quiet smile. "We've always known you were strong," he said softly, "but today everyone else got to see it too. You've handled everything with dignity and courage, and you've shown the world that nothing can define your worth except your own heart." Emily felt her chest swell with emotion. The words, simple as they were, carried a lifetime of support and love that she would never forget. As the night drew on, Emily and Luke returned to the center of the garden, where the last dances were taking place. The music was soft, and the guests were gathered closely, creating a sense of intimacy and warmth. Emily felt completely immersed in the moment, her heart full of gratitude, love, and joy. She realized that despite the challenges of the day, the Bullies, the whispers, and the moments of doubt, she had emerged victorious. Her wedding had not only celebrated her love for Luke, but had also celebrated her strength, courage, and resilience. Jake, still quietly observing from a distance, felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had witnessed injustice, and he had acted when necessary, but the true triumph belonged to Emily and Luke. Their love and strength had transformed a potentially painful day into a celebration of hope and dignity. The Bullies' attempts to disrupt the day had failed completely, and in their absence, the true beauty of the wedding shone brighter than ever. As the night came to a close, Emily and Luke wheeled through the garden one last time, saying goodbyes and thanking guests for attending. The warm glow of lanterns illuminated smiling faces, and the gentle breeze carried laughter and the faint scent of flowers. Emily felt a sense of completion, knowing that she had not only celebrated her love but had also proven something to herself, that courage, dignity, and love can overcome any obstacle. Finally, as the last guests departed and the garden grew quiet, Emily and Luke sat together beneath the oak tree. The stars shone brightly above, reflecting in Emily's eyes. She rested her head on Luke's shoulder and felt a deep sense of peace. "We did it," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "We really did it." Luke kissed her forehead softly. "Yes, we did, and this is only the beginning of our story." In that quiet moment, Emily reflected on the day. She thought about the bullies who had tried to undermine her joy, the guests who had supported her, the friends who had cheered her on, and the silent cowboy who had stood up when needed. Every element had contributed to a powerful lesson. That strength is not measured by physical ability, but by courage, heart, and the love we give and receive. Emily knew that life would continue to present challenges, but she also knew that she and Luke could face anything together. The day had tested her in ways she had not anticipated, yet she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident. Her wedding had been more than a celebration of love. It had been a testament to resilience, dignity, and the enduring power of the human spirit. As they wheeled toward their car to leave for their honeymoon, Emily felt a profound sense of joy and contentment. The garden behind them, still glowing softly with lantern light, was a symbol of the triumph of love over cruelty, courage over judgment, and hope over despair. Emily smiled, knowing that she had not only married the love of her life, but had also claimed a victory over negativity and doubt. In the quiet of the night, with Luke by her side and the stars overhead, Emily felt the future stretching before her, full of possibilities, love, and adventure. She had faced hardship, judgment, and fear, yet she had emerged victorious. And as the car drove away, carrying them toward the next chapter of their lives, Emily knew that she would always carry the lessons of this day in her heart. That love is stronger than hate, courage is stronger than fear, and kindness is stronger than cruelty.